good to be in the house of the Lord today. Happy to see everyone here, returning, new, visitor, guest. Been here 10 years. It's a good day to be at church, talking about God, thinking about God, coming together, doing what's most important, taking the time out of our week to come together as a church, talk about God, and kind of grow together. If you're new here, welcome to Victory Church. If you haven't seen the thousands of kids yet, they're back there somewhere. They will be back later. Don't be scared when you see them. But if you do have kids with you and you want them to go to Sunday school, we do have Sunday school in the back going on right now. Someone that should be back there to help you if you still have your kids in here. So, getting started, first of all, happy Father's Day to everyone. I was originally supposed to teach on Mother's Day, but I got stuck at work, and I'm actually thankful for that because I was like, what do I say to all the mothers? It's a 29-year-old man. That's exactly when my mind is here to speak to all the mothers about what they're going through. And now I'm feeling the same thing on Father's Day because I barely consider myself a father at this point. I got 2 kids, a third on the way, and I still have no idea what I'm doing every day when I wake up. So here we are. If you get something from this, let me know because I probably missed it myself. So we're going to be talking about John 5 today. I am thankful to teach. I appreciate the opportunity to do this. This is a lesson that I've been sitting on for a while because God likes playing jokes on me. Every lesson he does give me, he's like, also, this is something you struggle with, so enjoy teaching that to everybody. So this is my struggle put into, I was going to say pen to paper, but iPad, put on iPad and emailed to myself. So we're going to be talking about basically from John 5. I had to give it a title. I like titling things. That's the only thing I'm almost good at when it comes to these things. So I'm talking about any given day. We're going to be talking about the pools of Bethesda, Jesus coming to heal the man on the mat, what happens after Jesus heals the man on the mat, because there's a lot of good lessons in there. Multiple ways to look at it, and other things we can look at it, kind of moving on from there. So I kind of wanted to start this out with, who has ever made a promise to themselves that they did not keep? Anyone? Who has ever, not that I've done this, who has ever been, it's like 8 p.m., you're eating dessert, and you're like, you know what, tomorrow I'm going to start working out. I'm going to set my run shoes out. There's no reason I'm not doing this. I'm going to wake up before work, and I'm just going to go run. I'm not even going to go to the gym. I'll just go run outside. Then you wake up and it's like 5 a.m. and you're like, oh, you should not have bought good sheets. They were way too comfortable. You got a weighted blanket and your pillow's soft because it's Tempur-Pedic, and you're like, I'll do it after work. And then you get off work and you're like, work was exhausting. I'll do it later. And then a month goes by and you're like, wasn't I supposed to be doing something right now? So everybody's had that experience. It's very easy to make promises, very easy to set expectations for ourselves, and then when the moment comes, we're like, that sounds like a lot. So that is something I'm glad that we've all gone through, we've all experienced. Wanting the result is always easy. Picturing it can be easy, but when the opportunity comes to make it happen, that's when the challenge comes. It's easy to have wishful thinking until you actually have to do something about it. Doing what it takes versus putting something in our mind is a whole different thing. So today, like I said, John 5, we're going to talk about a man whose life story I feel we can all learn something from, because he kind of exemplifies this mindset of, I want this, but when it comes, I've got some excuses for why I don't think I'm ready for it. So if you don't know about the pools of Bethesda, we'll read about the scripture about it in a little bit, but just know Bethesda, it is an Aramaic term for the house of mercy. Some also translated the house of grace, but kind of looked on as the house of mercy. Remember that term, the pools of Bethesda, also called the house of mercy. It consisted of 5 covered porches, and underneath them a crowd of hurting people, blind, lame, paralyzed, all just laying there, because there was something special about those pools, the scripture tells us, that every now and then an angel would come down, trouble the waters, and the first one who got into the water was supposed to be healed. So imagine you've got these pools, you've got a bunch of sick people, you've got a bunch of blind people, you've got a bunch of deaf people, and they're all waiting for this water to start getting stirred up, because the first one in there in their mind is going to be the one who gets healed. So they're all racing to try and get this miracle that they need. Good for that picture. Before I move on from that, it is also important, because this is supposed to be teaching. This is a real place. This is not a parable. This is not imaginary, whatever it is. This is a real place. This is what it is said to have looked like. The 5 porches are numbered on there. There's a south pool and north pool. It talks about a verse we'll be reading shortly. Now there is in Jerusalem by the sheep gate a pool in Aramaic called Bethesda, which has 5 roofed colonnades and or porches. For a long time, skeptics of these verses didn't actually believe that these existed. But funny thing about the Bible is, as time goes on, there's a lot of archaeological evidence that kind of keeps proving things that people are like, that didn't exist. And then like 20 years later, we're like, well, we found it. So it kind of did exist. And it just keeps happening. Crazy enough, we keep finding things. So, like I said, for a long time, people thought this wasn't real. They thought it was a metaphor because it sounded too picturesque. John's just writing about 5 porches and, a pool where people are healed. It's just a parable. It's just a lesson. No, this legitimately existed. They found it. I should have gotten the picture of the ruins, but I was looking at the ruins and I was like, I still don't even know what I'm looking at. So I was like, hey, here's a picture of what the actual thing looked like, because I am not smart enough to walk you through what the ruins look like. So kind of going on from there, we'll start in John 5:5-9, and kind of talk about 38 years of pain. So verse 5, I'm reading the New King James, because I'm, once again, King James way up here on me. So we're going to do New King James. So now a certain man was there who had infirmity 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there, knew that he had already been in that condition a long time, he said to him, do you want to be made well? That's a very important question for this lesson. Do you want to be made well? The sick man answered him, sir, I have no man to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up, but while I am coming, another steps down before me. So just one verse later, he's making excuses already. He didn't answer the question. He gave his own reason on why it can't happen. Then immediately, Jesus, basically just ignoring what he said, Jesus said to him, rise, take up your bed and walk. Verse 9, immediately the man was made well, took up his bed and walked, and that day was the Sabbath. I'm not going to hit on this today, but any time in the New Testament, or even in the Old Testament, that I see the word immediately, it's something that piques my interest. Jesus said it, and immediately this happened. Or Jesus said to go, and immediately they went. Those are always interesting things that I've kind of noticed in the Bible that kind of piqued my interest. Like I said, we won't be diving too much into that part, but something interesting about these verses, verse 5, the first one we read, it says 38 years this man was sitting with this sickness, this illness, this affliction. To put that in perspective, that is 5 years longer than Jesus was even alive for his entire lifespan. That is 10 to 15 years longer than the median age, like expected age of survivability at that time in the world. And he's there for 38 years. That is still 9 years longer than I've been alive. Still in my 20s, hanging on. But that's a long time to be sick. That's a long time to be hurting. I feel like that can make a person probably get pretty bitter. That my entire life, I'm 38 years longer than most people have been alive. I'm just sitting here sick and hurt. And so it's also worth noting at this time that, kind of talking about this 38-year thing, the Israelites, when they were in the wilderness, they wandered around for 2 years, and then they got outside the promised land. They sent the spies in. And then after they sent the spies in, and God was like, I'm going to wait for your entire generation to die away before y'all get into the promised land, that was 38 years. So the entire time this dude's been sitting here is the exact same amount of time that the Israelites were just parked in the desert while God was waiting for them to pass away for a new generation to come along. All this to say, once again, it is a while that they were sitting here. A whole generation was stuck between a promise and the promised land, and whether or not that was the point of why John made it clear that, hey, this is 38 years, I'm not sure that that's what he was trying to say, but I feel like it's a notable parallel that the picture is the same. It's a long season where nothing is happening. Nothing is moving. He's just kind of sitting there, same thing day after day, and hope is just quietly drifting away from his life. Day after day, year after year, same thing after same thing, watching someone else get healed, watching someone else get delivered. He's just stuck on his mat with nothing else happening. So at the pools out of the whole crowd of hurting people, another noticeable thing, Jesus walked straight up to him. The man did not call out to Jesus. You see several scriptures and teachings and lessons throughout the Bible where people are like, Jesus, come help me. Jesus, come save me. And to the point where people are like, hey, stop, be quiet. You're loud and obnoxious. And then there's the lady with the issue of blood who literally goes through a crowd just to touch his garment. That did not happen. Jesus walked in, saw him, went to him, and healed him. The man didn't have to call out. He didn't even recognize Jesus, didn't know who he was. He hadn't asked. Jesus just saw him and knew he had been there a long time and came to him first. So kind of moving on from that point, I talked about that first question that Jesus asked. Do you want to be healed? That is a big question. Because when Jesus walks up to him, like, what a weird question to any normal person. Do I want to be healed? Will you see me on this mat with legs that don't work? Well, what do you think I want? I mean, because I'm me, that's what I would think. I've been here for years with no healing. I can't do anything. I'd love to be able to walk. Why are you even asking me that question? On the surface, it's an odd question. Like I said, he's been there 38 years, but anyone who has read their Bible knows that Jesus never wastes a word and he never wastes a question. There's something underneath the question that even us today can get something from. So what's missing? Like I said, throughout the entire Gospels, Jesus is saying things such as, your faith has made you well. Blind Bartimaeus cries out to God. The one with the issue of blood fights through the crowd to get to him. The centurion sends word saying, like, if you just say something, something can happen. This is completely different from the rest of Jesus' miracles because he's just walking up to him and doing this. He doesn't show faith. He didn't seek God. Doesn't even really know who he is until later on. This is just pure grace and pure initiative on the part of Jesus to make a point. Jesus picks him out of a crowd and moves toward him before the man even does a single thing. This tells us something about how God works and about how Jesus lived his life and how he often comes looking for us long before we go looking for him. The entire point of the question, it lands even heavier when you realize this thing. Do you want to be healed? Do you want to be made whole? Normal people will say, well, yeah, of course I want to be healed. But there are a lot of people, and I've been there several times in my life where, hey, I'm sitting in church or maybe I'm at home and I'm praying or whatever else it is, and the preacher's like, oh, God can heal you today. He can give you something new in your life. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, feeling the Spirit of God move around, knowing that this can happen, seeing it happen in other people, knowing if I was to go and engage, something would probably happen. But that would mean there would be new expectations put on me. That would mean that tomorrow I need to start living a new life, because that means tomorrow I won't get to stay at the pool anymore where I've been for 38 years. And it's a lot harder to, as we started with, move into something new than to sit with the expectation of, oh boy, it'll be fun when that finally happens. And then it finally happens and you're like, I don't know if I want that responsibility. It's a deep question of asking, do I really want to be healed? Do I really want a new life? Or is it more comfortable for me and easier for me to kind of sit with what I have expected of myself for the past 20, 30, 40 years? Whether it be, hey, new convert coming into the church, hearing the word, feeling God, hey, God asking that new convert, do you want to be healed? Some obviously saying yes, and then there's obviously the people who come in, they're like, well, no, because that means I'm going to have a new expectation of living for God. Or maybe it's someone more like me who, hey, I've been in church since I was 4, 6. I've been physically in church, but you know how that is some of the time. And then things kind of drift away and you sit on a pew for 10, 15, 20 years, and then you feel God calling you to something more, and you know if you just reached out and grabbed it, he would give it to you, but that would mean new expectations on you. That would mean new obligations that you didn't have before. That would mean that you are being set to a new standard by God, and you can't just keep going along with what you've been doing. So it is also important to notice that he doesn't say yes straight away. Like I have done many times, Jesus offers healing, and the man immediately answers with an excuse. I have no one to put me in the water. Someone always steps down ahead of me. I can't do it. I'd love to be healed, God, but no, I can't get to the water fast enough. The man is offered a miracle, and he responds with all the reasons of why it can't happen. And I don't know about you, but in my life that is very, very familiar. God cracks a door, and I stand there explaining to him why I can't walk through it. It's not open enough. It's just cracked a little bit. I don't want to go out there. This is where I've been for 38 years. This is my home now. There's a lot going on out there. I don't know what to expect. It's not what I've come to know. This can hit hard because no one can make this choice for us. My wife can't make it for me. Our pastor can't make it for us. If we're younger or whatever else, our parents can't do it for us. Our friends can't do it for us. Nobody can make the choice of allowing God to give us a new story except for ourselves. Do I want to be healed sounds very, very straightforward. It seems obviously yes, but when the opportunity is in front of us, it can feel different because knowing it's not a theory anymore and knowing that I also have to allow the change to come over me and my life to possibly change completely from where I'm comfortable, that's what makes the decision harder. In Revelation 3:20, I use this verse, I feel like every time I teach, but it just fits with everything. Jesus says, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in." He knocks and he doesn't kick it down. The handle is on our side. And what we have to do is open the door and allow God to give us a new story. But that still is, it's difficult. So the question remains, do we want a new story? The decision is ours and ours alone. And it is important to realize that on any given day, don't be surprised when it shows up unexpectedly. So kind of going from there into more of the excuse that the man was talking about, do I want to be changed? Here's what 38 years on a mat can do to somebody. It's long enough to stop expecting anything. Like I said, that's a while. It's long enough to get comfortable in the very thing that's killing you. It's long enough to get comfortable in the place that you're not even supposed to be with. They got real comfortable in the wilderness several times when they were not allowed into the promised land, but that was the place that was killing them. That wasn't where they were supposed to be. That's not what God had for them. But they allowed themselves to get comfortable in the place that was quietly and slowly killing them. And this is the honest and uncomfortable part. Sometimes we don't actually want to change. We just want other people to think we want to change. Because our brokenness becomes our home. It becomes our identity. We can, I don't get into all this, but we can have a victim mentality of, oh, I'm broken. You just wouldn't understand what I've gone through. I can't be changed. I've done too much. When God is literally just saying, come to me. I'll come to you. Just, do you want to be healed? Do you want a new story? I'm honest enough to say I've had times where I wanted to feel bad for myself and thought, this is just who I am. This is who God made me to be. These are the circumstances that he put in my life. Nothing to do with me. This is just the lot I've been given. I'd rather stay here anyway. I don't want to leave my mat. And we make peace with our mat. It becomes our home. It becomes our identity. We're the person on the mat. I can just picture the man saying it after years of being in the same spot on the same mat. Because we want some identity. We want to take control, a lot of us, in the things we're going through. He's probably saying, look at this mat. This is my mat. I put this here. No one else made me come here. No one else put this mat for me here. I did this. I arranged it just right. My mat looks better than everyone else's mat here. I made this spot my own. I made this my home. And through this whole thought process, trying to come to reason and trying to come to terms with the situation we're in, we can often decorate our brokenness and decorate our dysfunction until it feels like a home. And we get confused and we make believe the reason why we're actually there when there's a completely another reason why we're there. We make believe that there is no need to change because, no, I like it here. I chose to be here. I don't actually need whatever God has for me. I don't need to be healed because this is my home. This is what I've made it to be. And we get so used to lying down that getting up feels like a scary option. So it feels like such a scary option that bitterness can start to creep in. So when change finally shows up, part of us snaps back at it. Maybe I'm the only one who gets angry sometimes. Maybe. No one else, right? So you ever had someone that you wanted for a long time, they're like, no, we're not going to do that, and then they finally offer it to you, and you're like, well, I don't even want to do it anymore. I call that well, no, I'm not going to say my wife's name. She doesn't do that. She never does that. I love you. Don't be mad at me. She's not even in here. Okay, we're good. No one tell her I said that. But I'm sure we've all seen that attitude before. Okay, no, we can't do it, blah, blah, blah. And then, now the opportunity, well, I don't even want to do it anymore. I never wanted to do it in the first place. You look stupid for even offering it to me right now. Because that was like a year ago I wanted to do that. And so in our bitterness, we can be the same way. Well, where were you, God, the 38 years that I've been here? Now you want to show up? Where were you the first year? Where were you year 10? Where were you when I lost my job? Where were you when my mom or my dad died? Where were you when all these things happened? Now you want to show up and get me out of my situation? It's easy to allow bitterness in our own lives to take precedent over what God's trying to do in our life, trying to get us out of a situation, trying to take us out of where we shouldn't be, where we were never meant to be, and into the place where He wants us to live and grow in Him. So this is the honest and uncomfortable part. Sometimes we don't actually want to change because our brokenness, as I said, becomes our home. And kind of moving on from there, like I said, bitterness, I wouldn't know anything about this because just like Moses, I am the most humble person I know. And if you know me personally, I don't want to say the least stubborn, but I'm usually pretty accommodating. I don't argue or fight a lot. But we can feel hopeless. I'm so glad my wife's not in here. She'd be standing up from where she's sitting. We can feel helpless long enough, and it gets easy to be stubborn. No, I don't want to move anymore, actually. I want to stay right here. This is my spot. Feeling helpless and broken so long, fighting for any semblance of control over a God who wants to pull us out. And we must be careful not to allow pride to keep us from the new story in life that He wants to give us. Another really, really big question I have is, man's there 38 years, can't get to the pool. This isn't in the scripture, but when I read it, and I've thought this for years at this point, I'm curious how far away his mat was from the water. Maybe when he first got there, he was like, I'm day one, I'm out of here. I'm lightning quick. I ain't got legs that work, but I'm a dive into that water as soon as it starts getting troubled up. So day one, he's got his mat on the edge of the water, and he's waiting. And he's staring at it. And nothing happens. So a week goes by. He's like, I'm still going to get it. It's only been a week. I'm gonna get out here faster than these other people, and he doesn't get it. And then a year goes by. He's like, maybe tomorrow I'll do it. And he moves his mat just a little bit further back. And maybe after a decade, he's like, next week I'll really, really start trying to get healed again. I'll get in that water. And he just moves his mat a little bit further back. I don't like getting splashed by the people who are actually getting in the water anyway, so I'm gonna scoot back a little bit. After 38 years of disappointment, of hoping and trying and failing, after all the time, was he still sitting at the edge of the pool? Had he given up, and had he set his camp somewhere further away from the very place he believed the healing was going to happen, that it was supposed to happen? I don't know the answer. Like I said, Scripture doesn't tell us, but I know this. Sometimes we're not even near the water anymore, or near the place where we believe that we can be healed. Not because we hate God or not because we've walked away. It's sometimes, being of real humans, we can all agree, I feel like sometimes we just get tired. It's not that we're mad at God. It's not that we're shaking our fist at Him. The world is exhausting. Families are exhausting. Work is exhausting. And sometimes we just get tired and we're like, I don't really care anymore at this point. I'll be Job. I'll be just like Job's wife. Just curse God and die, I guess. I'll just give up and roll over. We get tired of hoping something would change. So little by little, we relocate, and before we know it, we've built a home in a place that we were only supposed to visit. It becomes our home. It becomes the place where we live, and we were only supposed to be taking a vacation there for something to happen. We make peace with our mat. And the beautiful thing, though, is that even though we've drifted farther than when we intended when we first got there, the water was never the thing that was going to heal us in the first place. Eventually, there will come a time where Jesus will show up, and that even though we've moved our mat from the water, Jesus still knows where to find us. Even if we've moved it into the corner of the porches, away from the water, Jesus knows we're in the corner. He knows where we are. He knows where we're sitting. He knows how long we've been there. The man didn't even make it to the water, which is the most beautiful part of the entire story. Even though he might have drifted further away, maybe he was still there, whatever it is, the most beautiful part is that Jesus still knows where to find us, and the man didn't even make it to the water. Jesus came directly to him. He saw him, he went straight to him. The pool that he had pinned his whole hope on never even touches him. The whole place that he had spent 38 years, that water's going to heal me. The thing that heals him is not even the thing that he spent all his time there for. The thing that heals him is Jesus just speaking, get up, take up your mat, and walk. The change didn't come the way he thought it would, and it didn't come from the water. It came from the word of the one standing in front of him. So another way to look at this is what happens when we get up. Everyone should be excited for us, right? We're living a new life. Jesus has changed our life. We've got a new story. But the next verses are actually really interesting. Because imagine you've been here 38 years, you can't walk. Jesus shows up, the Son of God. He literally just says, hey, spoken word, you're healed. Get up, go, take your mat and walk. Guess what the religious people do? Surely something joyful, right? Surely they throw a party because Jesus just healed this guy who's been sitting here longer than they've probably been alive. They might have visited that pool as kids and been like, hey, there's that guy again. Just still there. John 5:9-10 says, Jesus said to him, rise, take up your bed and walk. Verse 10 says, and immediately the man was made well, took up his bed and walked, and that day was the Sabbath. The Jews therefore said to him, who was cured, it is the Sabbath. It is not lawful for you to carry a bed. Thank you. Thank you for telling me that. By the way, I just got healed. I can walk now. I feel like that's the more important part of what's going on here. So think about how upside down this is. A man who hasn't walked in 38 years is on his feet. They had to know who he was. This dude is considered a great-grandpa at that time. He's 30. He's got to be over that age. He's on his feet for the first time, and the religious leader's first reaction is not joy. It's a rule violation. You broke the rule. What are you doing walking? You broke your rule. Yeah, you've got a mat and you're walking. What are you doing? Get back to your spot. Go back to where we know you're supposed to be, where we think you're supposed to be. Go back to the pools, go back to your mat, and stay there because you're breaking the rules. We didn't say that you could be healed today. They look at a walking miracle, and all they can see is a man carrying a mat on the wrong day. They major on the regulation, on the rules, on what's supposed to be happening, and they completely miss the mercy of the moment. The pool was named. Not going to do it. I'm getting old now. I cry when I teach or preach. If you're new, deal with it. It happens. The pool was named the house of mercy, but the religious system standing around it showed none. The people around the house of mercy showed none. It's entirely possible for us to be so focused on keeping the rules that we miss God moving right in front of us. That's what legalism does. It trains our eyes to look for what's broken instead of what God is doing. And I pray I'm never so committed to the letter of how I was raised and how I think and believe things should look, and what are you doing walking with a mat on the wrong day? And just miss the miracle that God's doing in someone's life. It is more important that we be committed to the mercies and the grace and the gifts of God, filling His Spirit in His people, than we are with first and foremost looking, that doesn't That's not the way I picture that playing out in my head. Because that's not what God came here to do. Another interesting point is a few verses later, and it kind of goes into this whole point. And it seems like a contrast. Jesus finds the man literally like 3 verses later, and the man's in the temple worshiping, which is also another good point. When he got healed, now he's worshiping. We should probably do the same if God, takes care of us. Anyways, we'll move on from that, which is itself worth noting, says something that adds to the later of the story. But John 5:14, afterwards Jesus found him in the temple and said to him, "See, you have been made well. Sin no more, lest a worse thing come upon you." Often in that day, they saw, hey, you're paralyzed, your parents probably sinned, or you sinned, so you're paralyzed, because you or your family was evil at some point. And so it's an interesting contrast of, well, on the surface level, we can look at what God's saying and say, well, he's saying sin no more because if he sins again, he's going to be paralyzed again. But the important contrast of the story is that Jesus is not flatly telling the man your paralysis was punishment for your sin. In fact, in John 9, a few chapters later, he explicitly denies a man's blindness was caused by someone's sin. So this isn't the formula that every hardship that someone comes across is because they sinned or because they did wrong. What Jesus is doing here is he's pointing to the most important thing of the story, and it's what the Pharisees missed. He is saying there is something worse than spending 38 years on a mat. There's something worse than spending your life not being able to walk. And that is why he says, sin no more lest something worse come upon you. What is that worst thing that could happen? Spiritual ruin, separation from God, and judgment. He's saying sin no more because he healed the man's body, but now he's doing what he actually came here for. He came to heal the man's soul. He came to give him hope. He came to give him a chance at everlasting life, not just the ability to walk. The physical healing was real and good, but it wasn't the deepest thing the man needed. And Jesus loved him enough to tell him so. And it is important in our lives when we come across people that in humility, as Jesus did, we love them enough to tell them so. That Jesus wants us to be healed physically. He wants to fix our lives. But he came and he lives and he died for something, and he rose again for something so much more important, and that's for our spirits and for our souls and for our life with him in eternity. What's 38 years on a mat, and what would have been 38 years more for this man on a mat versus losing his eternity if God hadn't touched his soul? If you get nothing else from this lesson, please hear this part. That while Jesus cares about the mat that we're on, he cares about what we're going through, he cares about difficult jobs and families and difficult workplaces and all physical ailments and all these things. He cares about them, and he can heal them, and he has. And more, I'm sure there's 10,000 testimonies in just this church alone throughout people's lives of these things happening. But it's important to remember Jesus cares about more than just the mat. He cares about the heart. And that's the reason that he came to this man, is because he cares about his heart. That's the reason he saw the man in the corner. Not because he was on the mat, but because he saw his heart. He knew it was hurting. So kind of going on the flip side as I get kind of closer towards the end here. Up to this point, we've been talking about the man on the mat. We've been talking about, what if I'm the person on the mat? What if I don't want a new story? Things like that. But on the other half of it, on any given day, God could be looking to you to be his arm to find the person on the mat. To reach to someone who's lying on their own mat, who's given up hope for a miracle. Think about Moses in the burning bush. He was just out chilling with his sheep. Hey, that bush is on fire. What's going on over there? And on some random day, he sees a bush on fire where the leaves are still green. It ain't being consumed. And he walks over to the bush, and God's like, oh, by the way, you're also about to lead an entire nation out of Egypt, and they're going to hate you for it. This is just some random day. And much like us, Moses had a list of excuses on why he didn't want to do it. I have a lisp. I can't string a sentence together. That's what he tried to tell God. And God was like, cool, you're still going to do it. So maybe it's the same face you see every week. Maybe it's the family member you'd almost given up on. Maybe it's a total stranger. You won't know which day it is. And that's exactly why Paul says, be ready in season and out of season. ready when it's convenient, ready when it's not convenient, because there should be a day in all our lives that we come across someone and Jesus uses us to be that arm and to be that outreach to that person. There's an old story, and the reason I brought up the Pharisees earlier, but they matter again in this context. The man at Bethesda wasn't the only one in this story representing something. The religious leaders were representing something too. They claimed to represent God. They were the authorities on God. If you want to know about God, you want to read the scripture, you come to them because they're going to tell you the undeniable truth with 10,000 rules that they also added on to them. And this should make us all think and stop for a second, because they carried his name. They carried his name. And the first thing they did to a miracle was say, hey, you're breaking the rules. Why are you're not allowed to be healed today. And they're supposed to be the representatives of God. There's an old story about Alexander the Great. After a battle, a young soldier is drugged before him because the soldier ran away during a fight. And Alexander looks at the man who is trembling for him and he says, what is your name? And the man quietly is, Alexander. No, what is your name? Alexander. And he gets mad at the dude and he says, no, what is your name? Say it like a man. Tell me what your name is. And the man boldly proclaims, my name is Alexander. And so Alexander the Great looks at him, knowing he shares the same name, and says, soldier, either change your conduct or change your name. As Christians, we carry the name of Christ everywhere we go. The question isn't just whether we claim the name, because I've seen a lot of Christians in my time. Not that I'm perfect, but I've seen a lot of people who are they like that word. But the question isn't whether we claim the name. The question is whether our conduct reflects it. Because on any given day, someone may lean on our understanding that we're a Christian. Someone may try to get something from us because we proclaim to be a Christian. So it matters not just that we say we have his name, but how we live our lives, how we conduct ourselves, how we act around other people who aren't as in church as us, or whatever we want to call it, or whatever it is, or someone who's broken or has a different situation than us. It matters not that we say we're Christians. It matters how we conduct ourselves when the time matters to represent him. So I'll skip over a point because I'm running out of time here. But kind of at the conclusion here as I finish up, another really, really important part of this chapter, John 5, the story does not end with a healed man walking home happy. As I said, the Pharisees immediately were like, you bum walking. And so it ends with a confrontation of them going up to Jesus. They talk to the man. The man's like, I don't even know who that was, actually. He just told me to walk, and I could do it. And then he goes to the temple to start worshiping God. And so the Pharisees eventually find out that it's Jesus. After the man eventually finds out that it's Jesus, they come up to him again. He tells them it was Jesus. They come to Jesus for doing this on the Sabbath because, like I said, they like their rules. Religious people love rules. They love them. So they come to him, complain at him for doing something on the Sabbath. And so listen to how Jesus answers them. He says, my Father is still working, and so am I. You're laughing at me. I hope I didn't say something wrong. Okay. If I said something wrong, he will be preaching later and will correct. Assuming added 15 minutes onto his message to correct all of the things that have come out of my mouth over the past 30. So Jesus answers them, my Father is still working, and so am I. He was making a clear statement that said he is the Son of God, and he will do whatever he wants to do. The entire story of a man who was afflicted and sick at the pools is important, and I hope we all got something out of the analogy about the mat and do we want a new story and all these things. But if you go and read John 5 on your own, this chapter, it is important to realize that this story about the man was never just about a sick man getting better. It's a story that forces the question upon everyone who reads it and upon the religious leaders of the time, who is this man who heals with just a word? Who is this man who works as the Father works? Who claims authority that belongs to God alone? These are the important topics of that chapter, and it all starts with some random dude being healed at a pool. So here are some rapid fire points as I conclude, because I ain't gonna lie to y'all, I usually zone in and out sometimes. So rapid fire points. I like a good summary. I like a good conclusion. We'll do it this way. Number one, first, that God takes the initiative in all of our lives. He came to a man who didn't ask, a man who didn't probably believe, because he didn't know who Jesus was. He probably heard of the Messiah, but he didn't know that's who it was. He didn't even know his name. But grace moved first over that man's life before the man could, nope, not going to do it, before the man could ever do it. Secondly, we must realize that the real obstacle is often inside of us. 38 years can turn a mat into our home. Man was probably sitting there, y'all think I'm on a mat? I got a poolside view. Look how nice my house is. I bet none of the other people at the time had a pool in their house, but he did. And we can allow bitterness and stubbornness to keep ourselves from going where God actually wants us to be and turning a mat into our home. And we can defend the very prison that we once begged to escape when the time comes to leave it. Third, that change comes from Christ, not from striving. It is good for us. I know as a man, sometimes I get in my head, David Goggins, I'm going to run 100 miles today, or whatever other thing that I'm like. We just sometimes it's like I'm gonna change my life. I'm gonna do all these things, but there's only so much we can do. The Bible said, while it's good to strive to be better, it says, our works and all these other things it's filthy rags to him. Like, what am I going to do that allows me to earn what God wants for me? The important thing is that grace moves first. Striving doesn't change anything. It's allowing God to work in our lives and just saying, God, I can't do this. I tried. For 38 years I tried, but I can't do it. It's also important to realize that the pool never touched him. The word of Jesus did. Fourth, that a changed circumstance is not a changed life. Being healed is awesome. I'm sure it was really cool being able to walk when you couldn't walk for that long. But the important part of that entire lesson is sin no more. It reminds us that the body was never the true goal. Jesus has always been and always will be after our heart. Lastly, that the God who heals is the God who calls. The same Lord who lifts a man off a mat can send an ordinary person, maybe Moses just tending his sheep. Another story in the New Testament, God sends the disciples out 2 by 2. He's like, everything you saw me do, now you're going to do it. I bet they were like, oh, okay. I don't know why you're trusting me with that, because that's how I feel every day. He asks me to teach. I'm like, you sure about that? But the one who heals people is also the one who will call us and give us the ability to do those things. To be his hand to someone else that maybe yesterday they were just another person, but on any given day, today's the day, they come up to and ask us, I heard something weird. I want to ask you about church or God, or hey, what time does your church start? Things like that. You never know what day that God could be using you to reach to someone's life. So I'll end with this. Any given day, the man woke up that morning like it was any other day. Same pool, same mat, and same disappointment. And he had no idea it was the day. He didn't go find Jesus. Jesus came and found him, and that's how God tends to work. He shows up in the middle of our ordinary, and on any ordinary day, he can make that day be the day that everything changes. That's why the name of the place matters so much. And I said, remember at the beginning, Bethesda, the house of mercy. The mercy of God is not I'm not going to do it. The mercy of God is not a stirring of the water that only the fastest person reaches. The mercy of God is Jesus walking up to the one who could never get there on their own, doing for us what we can never do for ourselves, and healing what time cannot heal, restoring what this world cannot restore, and most importantly, offering eternal life through himself. I'm done. Thank you for sitting with me. Sorry for the weird emotional ending. Sunday school should be over in a minute. Oh, it's 10:45. Prepare for 1,000 children. We just got done talking about Egypt a little bit. They're coming. They're on their way. Greet one another. Main service will start at 11.